They're going to have the right to compel unwanted medical interventions on us. The Nazis did that in the camps in World War II. They tested vaccines on gypsies and Jews.
That was Robert F. Kennedy Jr. back in August of 2020 comparing mask mandates to experiments the Nazis conducted on Jews and gypsies or Roma people during the Holocaust. That gives you a sense for exactly who RFK Jr., where he's coming from ideologically. 2 months ago, he announced he would challenge President Joe Biden for the Democratic nomination. While his bid to challenge Biden for the nomination is most definitely a long shot, it relies really heavily on the low-trust, paranoid environment we increasingly find ourselves in. I don't think his presidential bid as such is particularly noteworthy. I don't think he has much of a shot. One important thing I want to discuss, though, is that the vaccine scaremongering that he's made his career for the last 15 years or more, along with the same kind of line from people like Tucker Carlson, has had just really unfathomable human costs. It has likely resulted in many thousands of people, tens of thousands of people not getting vaccinated during the coronavirus, and many, many deaths. I mean, keep in mind, the United States vaccination rate lags behind many of our peer countries. The purple line all the way at the bottom is the U.S. vax rate. Our country is, with the UK, at the top of the coronavirus deaths by population compared to peer nations. There's a lot of stuff that contributes to that, not just our vaccination rate, but the low vaccination rate is driving a significant portion of the excess mortality. NBC News senior reporter Brandy Zadrozny recently spoke with RFK Jr. In one telling exchange, he explained, quote, "There are rules that make it difficult for the public airwaves to censor you," he said, misciting a federal law that requires broadcast stations provide candidates for public office with equal opportunity airtime. So I thought maybe I should run. I'm joined now by Brandy Zadrozny. So what's striking to me about this candidacy is that it's a locus of a whole suite of kind of, skeptical to paranoid conspiracy theories and worldviews that were very familiar to me, sort of mostly left inflected from like the 1990s, but not exclusively. But fundamentally, this suite of issues that increasingly has sort of moved to the right part of the spectrum that all sort of fit with each other in one worldview, which is like they are out to get you, they are lying to you.
Yeah, and I think that's right. It's sort of the zombification of all of these old conspiracy theories about putting things in the water to get you. They're in some way harming you, and they're covering it up. And Big Pharma has always played a big role in these conspiracy theories. And for 2 decades, RFK Jr. has been sort of the leader of these movements, but we're afraid of these things, whether it's GMOs or things in the water, or
cell phone towers or Wi-Fi,
right, giving you cancer. He's always sort of been the leader of this movement, but I don't think you can understate the impact that COVID has had on our minds. And whatever happened during COVID, people were stuck in lockdowns, people were on the internet more often, people were away from their communal activities like church and everything else.
Yeah, and they had a once-in-a-century disruption in their lives.
Oh, yes, that too, right. And they were terrified, right?
Yes, it was upsetting and traumatizing, yeah.
Of course, obviously. So, but whatever happened during that time, all of those things combined, people really dove down the rabbit hole at that time. Even Joe Rogan will say, he said on his podcast the other day, he's like, I was like kind of a normal guy, and then COVID opened my eyes. And you can't believe how many people have fallen down that same rabbit hole. And RFK has really chosen to gobble up the spotlight in a time where he is the leader of everybody's brainworms.
Well, but this is what's so fascinating to me. So what you have seen is a polarization between the party coalition sorting along low trust, high trust. Mm-hmm. So you have increasingly the center to center left is a higher social trust coalition. The center to center right to the right wing is a low social trust coalition. And so this migration where RFK comes from the left, I mean, he's, obviously is the most famous name in Democratic politics, but also like how he aligns his politics. But the people that are most enthusiastic about him right now are Roger Stone and Elon Musk and Joe Rogan, and Donald Trump has good things to say to him. And he's getting all this amplification because that kind of stuff is the beating heart of right-wing politics right now.
Yes, but also because I think a lot of people are trying to use him as a spoiler candidate,
Okay,
right?
yes.
They
Say
want
more
the
about that.
disruptions.
Yes.
Steve Bannon has been for months and months pumping him up, had him on his show during COVID, and just saying all the best things about him. He's just wonderful. He should be Trump's running mate, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
Obviously, Steve Bannon likes to cause a little trouble.
Yes.
And so that seems clearly like what's going on there. But yes, all of the things that RFK stands for now seem to be right-wing feelings, right-wing ideas. And so there's his entire Facebook group, thousands of people, like over and over and over again, it was, I would never, ever vote for a Democrat, but I'm going to vote for RFK Jr. That is his fan base now. And I don't think he particularly likes it. When I asked him about that on the trail, he kind of bristled. I think it sort of annoys him just a little bit. And so, he's got this policy of like, I'm going to unite the ends of the horseshoe. That's what I'm doing. But it's an uncomfortable situation for a Democratic scion.
Well, right, not just any Democratic sign. I mean, again, the most famous, revered, beloved name in Democratic politics in America. What was that quote that we said from your piece? I mean, it does seem like fundamentally a kind of attentional play, right? Like, I can get attention for these things that I believe and care about, which I don't have any reason to think he doesn't believe what he states to believe, unfortunately. And so this is sort of a perfect sort of hacking of the attentional programming to be able to insert this into the election.
Yeah, I think two things can be true at once. I think that one, he is using this time to get back on Instagram and to, be able to speak on TV and have the networks call him, which they didn't for a long time because of his anti-vax ideas became unpalatable. And so, yeah, he's sort of loving this time, and he's using this time to be back in the spotlight to reach a wider audience. Having said that, and I think he's a delusional man in almost every sense of the word, in almost every way that he could be. But I think he thinks that he can win. And, like we just said, there's a mass delusion since COVID, and he seems to have fallen for one as well.
Yeah, one of the things to me that the vaccine stuff puts this very fine point on a bunch of different arguments. Like there's this stuff today about how the GOP is targeting researchers who study disinformation ahead of 2024. And I have to say that I find myself sort of sympathetic to some of the nuance and difficult conversation about speech and disinformation, misinformation. Like, people believe all sorts of wrong stuff, and what someone thinks is wrong turns out to be right. And there's a lot of policing those lines is very complicated. But when you focus in on the vaccines, it's you really see the combination of sort of low trust social environment, amplification social media, and specifically a market and a demand for anti-vax stuff has produced really tangible, huge amounts of human destruction.
You can see
that's avoidable in this country.
100%. We've killed hundreds of thousands of people for no reason who could have been saved by a vaccine, had no reason to die, and they are dead from COVID. We have brought back diseases that were eradicated. We have polio back in this country now. Measles are coming back. Just in 2019, 83 people, mostly small children, died in Samoa of measles. Oh. And even that didn't change the idea for RFK and lots of people. They just moved the goalposts and said, oh, well, then it was really the measles vaccine that killed all those people. So, yeah, it's just a really sad time, and vaccines you can quibble over the types of moderation that we do, right?
Yeah,
and there is quibbling to be done, right? But on vaccines, the science is clear. It is clear. This is nonsense, and it's dangerous.
Well, it's actually never been clearer than in COVID, which is sort of the awful, awful tragic irony of the whole thing. Brandon Zadrozny, thank you very much.